In today's episode, Jen asks, how do you curate content for your social media channels? That's a complicated question to answer. A few years ago, I was curating content, reading through Feedly and blogs and stuff like that, and noticed that I kept doing the same thing over and over again, which took a really long time, a couple hours a week. And I said, this is silly. This is something that can clearly be automated. One of the benchmarks for automation is if you do the same thing over and over and over again, and you do it more than twice, it's time to start thinking about automating it. When you are doing the same thing every single day, it is definitely time to start automating. So the process for automating this thing is relatively straightforward. It just is a lot of custom code. Now, there are paid services that do this kind of automation, and they are all reassuringly expensive. The reason I don't use paid services is twofold. One, I'm cheap, and two, more importantly, I don't like the black box algorithm of how these services find and recommend content. I don't know what goes into the box, and therefore I don't know how it makes its decisions. And when you ask vendors, they say it's a proprietary algorithm. I get that, but I still want to know how it works. So I ended up rolling my own. What I did and how you can start thinking about doing this for yourself if you have the requisite technology skills is first you need a source of articles, of content. So what I'm going to show is bring this up here on screen. This is the AHREFS SEO tool, one of my favorites. Type in the topic of your choice, and you'll see, of course, a large collection of articles on your topics. What you want to do is not focus on the articles, but focus on the sources. Also, if you already subscribe to some great blogs in like Feedly or whatever service you use, export that list of blogs. You will need then a scraper to go out and retrieve those pieces of content and put them in some sort of storage mechanism. I use a SQL database, which you can see here, that pulls in each article and then by URL from those RSS feeds. Now, the important thing here is that I don't want just the article title, and I don't want just the URL. I want the full article itself. So one of the things that the software I wrote does is vacuums up the actual content of the article itself. And you can see here on screen a number of these that have the full text coming in. That's important because the next step in this process is to figure out, is this an article that I would want to share? Is a topic irrelevant? So there's a stage, there's another piece of software on this database server that goes through and identifies this is something that I care about. It also pulls in social shares, SEO data from AHREFS, things like that. In this case, we can see there are a number of articles that are about data. There's one here about analytics and things, and you can just spot check very quickly just by looking at the titles. Like, is this a relevant article? Here's what data-driven planning for city resilience, quantifying sea level rise. Okay, that sounds like something that I would share. There are also flags in here for things that I don't want. Let's see, where's that column? There's one called blacklist, and that is essentially, if I sort this column here, I delete anything that's below a certain point. Articles about politics, especially certain politicians. Don't want them, don't want to share them, so they automatically get blacklisted, just knocked out. They never see the light of day. The next step after that is to design them with social sharing links. I have my own link shortener because I got tired of getting ads from the service I was using to hand over a lot of money a month for them. So I have a link shortener connected there. And all this database processing happens on the database itself, and that prepares essentially about 15,000, 20,000 articles a month for processing. And this script runs, this system here runs every 15 minutes or so. So it's not like once a month, because it does take time for the software to go out and do all this processing and scoring. At the end, what you end up with is a scoring system, right? So at the very end, there is, let me just resort this here. You can see these are the highest ranked articles based on those topics, not containing things I don't want. What is social media management? Instagram revenue and usage statistics, right? 41 best data science programs. These are all things that are perfectly on target for the kind of stuff I share. So now the last step is to use another piece of software that I wrote that goes in and takes all these articles, blends in a series of social shares of things that essentially are ads, right? Things that I want to promote, like my newsletter, like the Trust Insights newsletter, whatever oddities I want to promote, and mixes them in too. So there's, from a content curation perspective, there's 25 ads, there are 50 articles, so about 2-to-1 ratio there. And then there's a thank you section as well, where I pull in an additional 25 articles that are all things that other people have written about Trust Insights. I want to make sure that we're sharing the love, thanking people for covering the company, right? That's an important thing to do. This will sew together at the end of the process, one single CSV file. And it looks kind of like this. This then goes into Agorapulse, Buffer, Sprout Social, whatever system you want to use to share your content. This is all built out, and this is fresh content. One of the restrictors on the system is it has to be only content that's been shared in the last 7 days. And what the summary is like cleaning, loading, the different social shares, topic scans, link shortening, content scan. At the end of this process, as of right now, there are 321 articles that I could be sharing that were published within the last 7 days that are topically relevant out of the 5,000 or so each week that are raw inputs. Now, this system is very technology heavy, and you can see the user interface kind of sucks. Actually, no, it does suck. If you're used to having a really nice polished interface, this is not something that is going to do you any good. Which is one of the reasons why it's not for sale, right? It is not a product that you could just buy off the shelf and run on your own servers. Trust Insights does offer it as a service if you want our help to get a file. We have a couple of paying clients who get weekly files from us. But for those folks, we work with them to tune their topics and tune their stuff so that they have input into the algorithm, but ultimately they're not maintaining the algorithm or the infrastructure. Like I said, the reasons I do this are twofold. One, I'm cheap. And two, I know how the articles are getting chosen. And when something comes up that I'm like, I don't like that kind of article, I don't want that kind of content in my social shares, I can go into the system itself and write exceptions, write rules, or change the code around to say, like, this is not something I want anymore. Now, there is some, but not a ton, of machine learning in this. And one of my goals for 2020 is to upgrade the article selection process to, instead of using manual tagging, to use supervised learning as a way to process the articles and get even better targeting. But that's going to require a lot of work. So that's going to be one of those things that probably gets done, if and when it gets slow. But that's how I do the content curation. This process and this system has taken probably 4 years to write and tune over time. And there are constantly new changes coming in as new clients come on who want this service, or as I see things and learn things that I want to improve on it, that changes the system too. And it's ongoing. If I were going to start over from scratch, I'd probably do some of the back-end architecture a lot differently, because it was built with my skills at that time. And as my skills evolve, the system evolves, but it's still not where it could be yet. I know where it needs to go. To build something like this yourself, you need SQL database skills. You need a scripting language that is web compatible, like PHP, Python, etc. And you need data processing language skills, like R or Python, in order to be able to create the scripts that you need and sew them all together into one system. So those are sort of the 3 sets of skills you'll need to implement a system like this. I would strongly recommend that you come up with your own algorithms, and you may want a user interface. I don't particularly need one, but you may want a user interface if you're going to do this yourself. But that's how it works. That's how the system works. It has been a pet project for years, and it continues to grow. And I hope you found this useful for thinking about how you could build your own system like this. As always, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.